Let's talk about a business model that's been hiding in plain sight for most of American history. It's a model that's more profitable than big oil, more consistent than Wall Street, and it's built on one single, chilling idea: turning conflict into cash. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that pattern.
Now here's what you've got to understand about that quote. This isn't some conspiracy theory. It's all based on publicly available data, on government contracts, the deals, the profits. It's all there in black and white. This is the story of how a few powerful dynasties built their empires on the back of war.
So who are we talking about? Well, you've got the DuPonts, who cornered the market on everything from gunpowder to explosives. You have the Rockefellers, whose oil literally fueled the war machines. The Morgan banking dynasty, who financed the conflicts. And, of course, the modern giants like Lockheed Martin and Halliburton, who dominate aviation and logistics. Each one controlled a piece of the puzzle that was absolutely essential for war.
So let's be really clear about what this is. We're not talking about some shadowy cabal meeting in a secret room. What we're looking at is a business model, a repeatable, predictable playbook that has been applied to armed conflict over and over for more than 150 years. It's a blueprint for turning a national crisis into private profit.
But here's where it gets even more disturbing. This goes way beyond just selling supplies. The records show that these same entities were actively working to shape American foreign policy. By funding politicians, backing think tanks, and hiring lobbyists, they helped create a political climate where military action wasn't just an option, it was often the first option.
So the big question is, how? How does this pattern actually work on a practical level? Well, it breaks down into a surprisingly simple 7-step blueprint. Let's walk through the mechanics of how you build a fortune on conflict.
All right, here's the playbook. Step 1. You position yourself before the war, becoming an essential supplier in peacetime. Step 2. When war breaks out, you get no-bid contracts, using national security to skip the whole competitive process. Step 3. You use something called cost-plus pricing, which we'll get to in a sec, but it basically eliminates all your financial risk. Step 4. You overrun the budget. Bid low to win, then jack up the costs later. Step 5. You hire the regulators, the classic revolving door. Step 6, you lobby for more war to keep the cycle going. And finally, Step 7, you diversify, using that war money to build an even bigger peacetime empire. It's a perfect, self-sustaining loop.
Okay, let's zoom in on cost-plus pricing, because this is the real engine of the whole machine. Imagine you hire someone to build a deck. In a cost-plus contract, you agree to pay for all their wood and labor, plus a guaranteed 10% profit on top of whatever they spend. So, what's their incentive? Is it to find a good deal on lumber? Nope. It's to buy the most expensive wood they can find, because the more they spend, the bigger their 10% profit becomes. Now just apply that same logic to a multi-billion-dollar weapons system. All the risk is taken off the company and put squarely on the shoulders of the taxpayer.
And this is how they keep the system so friendly. It's called the revolving door. A Pentagon general who oversees a massive contract for a new fighter jet retires from the military, and a few months later lands a cushy 7-figure job as a vice president at the very company that makes that jet. It creates this incredibly cozy relationship where the people signing the checks today know they might be asking for a job from those same companies tomorrow.
So we've seen the blueprint, we've seen how it works, but what's the bottom line? What's the actual price tag on this whole pattern? Let's put a number on it.
$485 billion. Just let that number sink in for a second. And that's a conservative estimate, adjusted for inflation from the documented government contracts that went to just these 5 groups. The real number, including all the things we can't track, is almost certainly much, much higher.
And this chart really puts it all into perspective. You can see Lockheed Martin and the companies that came before it way out in front, with over $200 billion. But look at the others. The Rockefeller oil empire and the Morgan banks weren't exactly small time. They each secured vast fortunes by fueling and financing America's conflicts.
And let's be absolutely crystal clear about where this money came from. It didn't just appear out of thin air. Every single one of those $485 billion was public money. It came from your taxes, from my taxes, or it was borrowed through deficit spending, which basically means our kids and grandkids are going to be the ones paying it back.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. Okay, this is some wild history, but that was all in the past, right? Things are different now. Well, the argument here is that this pattern isn't history at all. It's more alive and well today than ever before.
This slide just says it all. The tactic of the massive budget overrun is absolutely timeless.
Back in the 60s, the C-5 Galaxy plane was a huge scandal because it went 150% over budget. Now fast forward to today, the F-35 fighter jet program, it's on track to go over budget by more than 600%. The initial price tag was $233 billion. The current estimate is $1.7 trillion. The business model didn't change. It just added a few more zeros.
And this concentration of money is only getting more intense. Just look at the 2023 military budget. Of the more than $800 billion spent, a full quarter of it, that's over $200 billion, went to just 5 companies. The pie keeps getting bigger, and a tiny handful of players are taking bigger and bigger slices.
So why on earth does Congress keep writing checks for a program that's so wildly over budget? Well, honestly, it's because the program was designed with a kind of cynical political genius. The F-35 has parts suppliers in 45 out of 50 states. That means 90 senators have people in their state whose jobs depend on this one program. If you vote to cancel the F-35, you're voting to kill jobs back home. It's been made politically unkillable.
And all of this leads to maybe the most important question of all. That money had to come from somewhere. For every dollar spent on an overpriced contract, that's a dollar that couldn't be spent somewhere else. So what did we lose? What's the real opportunity cost of all this?
That $485 billion figure isn't just an abstract number. It represents a choice. That money could have paid for free college for every single American student for 2 decades. It could have built a high-speed rail network connecting every major city. It could have funded universal health care for 10 years, or rebuild every single crumbling bridge and road in the entire country. These aren't just fantasy numbers. These are the real things we chose not to do.
Now, here's a really crucial point. The argument isn't that these companies single-handedly start wars out of nowhere. It's that the profit motive acts like gasoline on a fire. It creates powerful incentives to make conflicts last longer, to make them more intense, and to make them far, far more expensive than they ever needed to be. Because every extra day of war was another day of revenue. And through all of this history, there's one common thread: almost total impunity. Time and again, these companies are investigated for everything from monopoly practices to bribery to straight-up overcharging the government. But the result is always the same. A fine gets paid, usually a tiny fraction of the profits they made, and it gets written off as just another cost of doing business. No one ever really faces any serious consequences. Which brings us back to the question that started all of this. When you look at 150 years of a repeatable pattern of no-bid contracts, of cost-plus pricing, of budget overruns, and the revolving door, all leading to these immense profits, you really have to ask yourself, at this level, is war a matter of national policy, or is it just a business model?
Once you see this pattern, it's kind of hard to unsee it in the world around you. If you want to keep digging into the hidden systems that really shape our world, make sure you subscribe for more explainers just like this one. Thanks for watching.